Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, and I'm flying sort of solo this week. As you know, Bob Stewart doesn't join me for every episode because he has commitments, or at least that's what he claims when he doesn't want to do an interview. And he's going to be sorry he missed this one because Bob Stewart, this one is for you. Because my guest today, because folks, you know I'm not going to just monologue you. You want to hear me monologue, go check out the Achieve Your Apex podcast, part of the Win, Make, Give world. You can find it at anywhere you get your podcast. You'll hear me monologue for you, 10-minute episodes there. Here, we're going longer, and I'm bringing a guest when Bob isn't around. And today, my guest is, well, I'm going to say my friend, because in the first minute and a half, I think we've realized we should know each other because we know everybody who does that. Big shout out to Kevin Kaufman, who we just taunted on video before we recorded this.
Hayes.
Good work. We'll use that one instead. Michael, welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Michael, let's welcome Michael Bernoff, who's joining me here today. Michael, thanks for joining.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, Chad. It's fascinating. You and I, within literally a couple seconds, you mentioned real estate, and we went, name. And within a few seconds, we were talking about so many incredible human beings in this amazing industry that you're an incredible leader. And I love your work. I love what you're up to. And I always feel like working with you and chatting with you, even the short little bit of time, I feel like I'm in a locker room, which is great. We're just chatting, talking about goals and winning, which I love.
That's what it's all about here, folks. And, you know, usually I ask really good questions of our guests and we get into a huge conversation. I have this feeling I'm just going to keep nodding my head. So if you don't hear me for a while, folks, we're going to talk to Michael. I'm going to have him introduce himself, tell you who he is, all that kind of stuff. Yet I'm going to just jump a little bit and tell you, Michael's got a book, and the book is called Average Sucks. You don't have to reach for it. They're not watching video. They're just hearing us talk. Average Sucks, and it's what you don't get or why you don't get what you want and what you can do about it. And folks, I think average sucks. And I have been teaching that one and speaking on that one. I'm a big fan of you be above average or you be way below average. There's no reason to ever be average at anything. I have this feeling this will become a huge part of our conversation and how we can help you today. Yet, Michael, many of them may know you. They might be like, I know this guy. I've seen him at this mastermind. I've heard him talk at this. I've already read the book, Chad. Let me ask you to introduce yourself because I'm not reading the fancy ChatGPT bios. I want you to tell everybody who you really are.
That's a great question. Right now, at this very moment as we're recording, I'm the guy in the middle of a lot of really cool stuff. And what I mean by that is I'm in the middle of assisting people in a crazy world right now that we live in where everybody's running left, running right, playing with AI, and very few people are focused on the secret of real estate. And that is how you and I communicate with the people that eventually want to buy or sell a home, and how to really communicate in a way, not just sell them, how to get them to lower resistance, be receptive to listening and being effective. Because for 25 years, that's been my obsession is what are they doing with their language and their words that's allowing them to get what they want, and teaching that to people who are interested and open to the idea. So all the people that you mentioned that we speak at their events, it's when they explain like, what do? It's we teach people how to use something they're using all day long, language and words, to impact themselves and others to get the things they want. So the whole idea of average sucks is not necessarily about being better than others. It's not letting your own freaking average we were born with, that middle class mentality, stop us from getting the things that we want in our lives. So that's the quick version. That's 25 years explained in 25 seconds.
All right, there you go. Love it. Our audience doesn't see. We don't record video. This is just so Michael and I can see each other. As our audience knows, you're catching up on that one. He's got a very interesting background, folks, because he's got his desk, his bookshelf behind him. I see important photos of some people back there. Right, I see
Jim Rohn up there. Jim Rohn, my mentor.
Okay, there you go. That's a good mentor to have.
Yep.
I'm looking around. I'm seeing what looks like Buddha reading a book.
I figure if he can read, you can read.
I've got Yoda over here. You say you're from Jersey, now in Arizona, yet I see Mark Messier holding the cup.
There you go. Yeah.
That's New York. You're not a Devils fan?
New Jersey, Devils didn't come till I was born into a family from the Bronx, New York, right? Okay. So it's like you're born, you come out of the womb instantly. Yankees fan, Giants fan, Rangers fans, no question. And right at that pivotal moment of my life when you're about 15, 16 years old, all your hormones are going off, all the excitement, figuring out life, the Rangers win the Stanley Cup with a guy named Mark Messier. So our heroes and our songs get introduced in life somewhere around 14 to 17. And that's a crazy thing, Chad. Have you ever noticed that your favorite music is what you listen to between 14 and 18 years old? You most don't like other music, but that is when our hormones and our puberty and everything's kicking off. So me, Appetite for Destruction. I love the Use Your Illusions, Metallica, some Nirvana, stuff like that. So we love deep down the things that happen typically between 14 and 18, and we tolerate the rest.
Okay. I was Duran Duran and Hall & Oates around that time.
And I
Elton
bet you
John,
still
Billy
love that in
Joel.
your car today, right?
Yeah, I don't usually listen to music too often, yet when those songs are playing somewhere, the volume gets turned up. Okay, so folks, this is a guy, he's got the things around him, right? He's looking around, he's seeing the things, and you could just hear by me mentioning a few of the things, who's in the photo, why it matters, you know, what that is over there, what this is over there, and they're triggering all of these things. Talk to me for a second before we even get into everything else about the power of environment as you see it then, Michael, because you've set that environment up for an inspirational success every time you come into work.
Yeah, I don't mess around with that. Environment is everything. And most people, I got a cold plunge, I got to do it. And they force themselves to do something that Gary Vee told them to do in the morning, or they're trying to be the next David Goggins. You got to know what works for you. Like I walk in our building, our institute used to be a church and a temple. So this place is double blessed. So yes, when I walk in, it literally was both across a 20-year period. And I bought the building. When you walk into the right, as you're walking up the stairs, it says, your future hinges on your ability to effectively communicate. When you head into our auditorium here at the building, it immediately says, accept the power of your own influence. By the time you walk up the stairs, we've got something called the power box. You step in it and you step in the power box. The power box basically says, what state do you need to be in to get what you want? That's even before I walk into my office. And the second I walk in, and what's crazy is across the desk from me is a picture of a boxer. And it's a boxer in the ring by himself, because that is the biggest battle that every entrepreneur faces every day. It's not Mike Tyson that's your fear. And Mike Tyson wasn't fearing Holyfield back in the day. That's using nostalgia right back in the day. He wasn't fearing Buster Douglas. He wasn't fearing if he were to fight Muhammad Ali, okay, or Lennox Lewis or any of these other guys. What the fear is their own fear inside of ourselves. The biggest thing we fight, I look at every day, is we're in the ring by ourselves. Even though we love our wife, your husband, your friends, your neighbor, your kids, as an entrepreneur, as a real estate agent, we battle every single day by ourselves, even if we're on the biggest team in the world. And we've got to fight that battle for our mind to control it, to allow it to do the things we want it to do. And that is my favorite thing to think about. So environment is precious and it's important, and it seeps into your eyes and into your ears, and it allows you to do the things you want to do.
I love that, folks. Are you hearing that? Right? It was we talk about it a bunch on the podcast. I believe in environment because it has to be there and do its job. You're going to be there. A shark doesn't live in the jungle, right? He would not do well. Make sure you're powering up your environment. And I love that you've got that boxing image there with just the one fighter, right? Having to overcome. He's turning the camera for me so I can see the picture. There you go, in the ring. The thing it triggers to me as you bring that up, Michael, is Muhammad Ali, who always, when people would ask him how many crunches he does or how many push-ups he does or all that stuff, he would say he doesn't know. He doesn't start counting until they start to hurt.
Yes.
Right? And folks hear that lesson, right? It doesn't count until it starts to hurt, which means it's working. So think about that for your mindset as you're doing this if you don't want to be average.
That's the thing. And the average is the biggest thing we're up against is our conditioning. We live in a society today. One of the biggest challenges I deal with is people want to be like everybody else. YouTube is, you want to be good at YouTube, you got to copy. It's just the way it works. You want to be good at Instagram, you got to copy. Being an individual, like I'm 6'7", I'm a big guy, right? And I remember years ago, a guy asked me how tall I was. And I said, I'm 6'6". I thought I was, I grew. And he goes, when are you going to start acting like it? I go, what do you mean? He goes, you act 5'5". He goes, which would be fine if you were 5'5". But he goes, you're only living a portion of yourself. I go, what do you mean? He goes, when are you going to grow into the full version of you? And I think most people are trying to be the next leader in their company that looks like someone else. They're looking up at, you and I talked about a company with a couple letters. They're looking at a guy, how do I be Gary? Or they're looking at a company and go, how do I be Bill? Or how do I be Joni? Or how do I be Susie? Or how do I be this? instead of like, how do I be the next Tony Robbins? How do I be next versus how do I be the full version of myself? And that is when you become that. We watch on TV like that house show where the guy in Manhattan is making $80 million selling a home. That's ridiculous when they do that. That's crazy cool. But you know what I'm talking about, right? The real estate agents and whatever. The job is, how do you be the full version Chad? How do you be full version Michael? How do you be full version Kevin that we talked about earlier? Once that happens, that's when things start to shift and change.
That is so great, and it's triggered. I have a mentor, Clint, who said to me at one point when I said to him early on, I said, I want to be the next Clint because he does such a great job, impacts so many people. He said, well, why don't you be the first Chad? Right. An exact same message, right? Exact same message that you're saying there. We all want to. You mentioned him earlier, Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know how many people I was working with, talking to, have heard from that saw him recently at an event and all said, oh, I need to do this like Gary V. It's like, stop being Gary V. He's very different. He's not you. So how do we do that? How do we look around, see these people? We're always taught, pick a role model, attempt to be more like, be more like. How do we do that and still not be them, yet be the full us, Michael?
It's a very simple statement. And I'm very big on language. I train professional athletes, UFC fighters. I went up to after the second shooting in Columbine, I helped the kids with PTSD work a week after the shooting. That's the type of work that I do. And I watch this sad thing happen every 4 years at the Olympics. My daughter is a competitive figure skater, my little one, at a very, very, very extremely high level. And we watch the Olympics and we watch people make these statements. And I'm sure you've said this watching a Michael Jordan or a Derek Jeter or watching a Mike Tyson or Wayne Gretzky. What do people say, Chad? They say this. What do they say? When someone does something great, how do
they do that? How do I do that? Right?
Yeah, they say, how do they do that? No one says, how do I do that? Right. Everybody says, how the hell do they do that? How do they do that? The secret to being effective is, how do I do that? How do I become a person that could actually do that? And I'm going to tell you that simple thing between they and I, if you go biblical here right now, I'll make it simple, is no false idols. Listen, stop looking up to Gary Vee. Stop looking up to Joe Blow. Stop looking up to anybody. And you start looking up to yourself, because the only way, if you put someone else on a pedestal, that's ridiculous. What you need to ask is, how can I do that? The way your life transforms is when you take control of your language and say, the difference between them and I and the results they're getting is they are doing something different than me, period. And then you got to say the most valuable thing in the world. I'm not where I want to be right now. And that is the hardest pill to swallow, because we like most of us, here's what we do. You become one of the elite agents. And here's how you have to do to be an elite agent. Sell 3 houses ever. And you're one of the top agents in the world because 97% of them quit. Am I correct? Sell 3 freaking houses ever in your life, and you are better than 97% of the people that ever licensed. Am I correct, Chad? Yes or no?
Sadly, yes.
Yes. So then what people do is they do 5 a year and they go, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm an expert hockey player in a country like in where did I go? In freaking the middle of the desert over in Dubai.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody plays hockey in Dubai. So who gives a shit? You're not Canadian, right? So the purpose of why I'm bringing this up is we're looking at the wrong group of people. People go, look at me. I'm better than them. What we need to look as the people that are doing the big things and go, there's my target.
Right.
That's what I'm working towards. See, I want you to imagine, like you mentioned, Mark Messier earlier. Mark Messier, I'm talking hockey. Wayne Gretzky, Yari Curry, line 1. And let's say I'm stuck on line 2. How do I get to line 1? It's a big difference in pay. Big difference and huge difference. The difference between being the CEO and the 4th level management, enormous. The difference between in your brokerage being the top person and number 3 or 4 is only about $800,000 a year in commissions.
Right.
Yes, you're making $250,000, but if you want to do $1 million a year, we've got to not only start doing things differently, we've got to see life differently, and we've got to identify differently of who we are. And most people identify as, I'm doing great. And we're not honest in saying, you know what, up until now, I'm doing better than I used to do, but I got a long way to go, and I'm excited about where I'm going. And that's the journey most people are not willing to go on. Most people are not willing to look in the mirror and not beat themselves up, Chad, but willing to language themselves the space that allows them to get what they want. So when someone tells me I'm making 300 grand a year, I say, am I supposed to be excited for you or are you upset? Which one is it? Like, is this good or bad? What are you telling me?
Right.
And in that answer, no, I'm doing great. Good. We're done then. As soon as you're doing great, we're done. We're done.
There you go.
And that's what I find most people do. They're doing great. And that's why they collapse what's possible. You don't have to beat yourself up, but you got to give yourself space to grow.
Give me some steps, right? So I see Jordan. I see Gretzky. Obviously, I'm not seeing them anymore. We're talking people that we grew up watching.
Dude, we're Gen Xers, buddy. You and I, we're Gen Xers.
Nowadays, I see whoever it is, and people will say, like you said, how did they do that? We immediately need to change that question to, how do I do that? What are some of the other questions we should be asking ourselves, sentences we should be saying? What's the mantra we add into our life for people who believe in chanting a mantra, whatever it is? Talk to me more on that, Michael.
I'm going to talk about language for a minute. I'm going to throw a couple little what I call trigger words at you that I believe will be very healthy. Number one is the words up until now. And the reason I say I watch a lot of people tell me things are hard. The market's hard. It's really hard to sell with 7% interest rates. It's hard because it's summer. It's hard because it's winter. And my answer to them is it's not hard. It's harder than you'd like it to be. The second we remove hard from our vocabulary and we say harder than we'd like it to be, it's an opportunity to change. The second is the languaging is up till now. Up until now, this is what I've been doing. It frees yourself to create the future that you're looking for. So what I typically would tell people is to start languaging what it is that they're going to be doing. Because at the end of the day, when we want to up-level our game, it has a lot to do with how we communicate with ourselves. And I would say the majority of the people are looking for external validation. This is why Mary Kay used to say, hey, people will do more for like a t-shirt or a banana than they're going to do for anything else. They want someone to tell them good job.
Right.
What I recognized is your desire for what I call external serotonin, which is the pat on the back that your mommy and daddy never gave you when you were 5 years old, will be a search to always be in second and third place for the rest of your life. What we need to train ourselves to do is to not wait for someone else to tell us good job and not even really tell ourselves good job. We need to learn how to become proud of ourselves. So with my kids, one of the biggest things that I do, and I retrain the office this way. In my office, I never tell anybody I'm proud of them. I tell them they should be proud of themselves. And the reason I shift the perspective is my job is to create what I call the Tom Brady shit-eating grin on your face. It's that grin that all the girls like the guy in high school. Gentlemen, the reason they like the quarterback is the quarterback had a grin a mile long and he looked at you like this, like, yeah, baby. And that grin was, I know what I'm doing and I know where I'm going. So if you want to talk about steps, number one is we need to accept that we are doing well. I'm proud of what I've done so far, but I got a lot of room to grow. And the second we give ourselves that space, that's where things begin to change. So when someone tells me like, well, what are my steps? How do I do it? How do I motivate myself? What do I do? Number one step is we need to start looking at our language. And we need to start looking at how we talk about the things we talk about in our lives. I would tell you that effective agents, they talk differently. They say things a different way. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. The guy said 500 or 600 of the best guests you could ever imagine on a podcast. He said, Michael, I want my podcast to grow. I'm at a 250 to 300 downloads a month on this podcast. I said, okay, well, there is your challenge because you're setting your brain to figure out how to solve the problem of why do I have 250 versus how do I get 5,000? The second you go, how do I get 5,000? How do I become a person that has 3,000 people interested in this? Or how do I get 90 people to show up at a showing? How do I get 50 people in my office? When we start asking ourselves these different questions, things begin to change quickly for us. So I would say that the biggest place we all need to start is with our language. How do we talk about our challenges? And how do we talk about the things that we want? Because the way that you talk about those are your definition of who you are. So I would say most people, they live in an average of, you know what, I really wish things would change. I don't like this thing, and here's what I want. But it's the way we talk about it versus why are we talking about what we want instead of saying, here's what I'm in the process of creating. Like, let me ask you this, Chad. How many times have somebody come up to you and said, I got a problem? You ever heard that?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy that? They come around the corner and they're in your office and go, Chad, we got a problem. Are you like, oh, I'm glad you showed up. This is my favorite conversation. Is that what happens?
Never.
It's annoying. A client calls. Go, I got a problem. And then the personal development positive thing we go to say the word challenge. Nah, not that either.
Right.
When someone comes around the corner, this is what I would train my team to say. Here's something I'm excited about finding out how to solve. Isn't that different?
Yes.
We sit down for 5 minutes. I would love to figure out a solution for something. Would that be fun?
That does sound much more fun than I have a problem.
Most people's lives are problems. They're not solutions. I'm going to call it something simple, solution-based communication. When we come from solutions, it's different coming from problems. And most of you don't realize you hide problems. You talk in problems, you think in problems because you get attention. It solves things. People like it. You know, people don't love seeing the guy who solves something because they feel inferior themselves. So I would say the number one step that we need to do is become solution-based people and go, here's something I'm in the process of solving.
Love that. Folks, what a great twist on what we've been saying. And you can feel, if you're listening, feel the energy shift that comes from that and the mindset that's going to change. I'm dropping Bob, right? Michael's gonna be my new co-host. So Michael,
You and me, Bob, spell it forward, spell it backwards. It's still Bob. Michael's got a little more charisma to the
It's
word.
got more fun to it, right? Michael
Michael
Bernoff,
with an M and an I and a C and an H. Yeah.
He's the author of Average Sucks, Why You Don't Get What You Want and What to Do About It. I'm plugging that book because you should read it as you're listening to the things that he's talking about. You've been talking to salespeople.
Yep.
And I mean, for the first 20 minutes or so of our episode, we've been talking to salespeople. Something I heard you mention in just a quick pass away was you said your kids. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our listeners have them. A lot of our listeners have the spouse. Let's take this out of business because I don't want to be an average spouse. I don't want to be an average parent. I want to make sure that I'm above average in those areas as well. Give me some stuff to take home. Now, of course, everything you've just talked about, how do they do that? How do I do that, right? I have a problem too. I'm excited to find the solution. Those sentences could just as easily be across the dinner table as they can be across a board table in that situation. Yet let's talk a little bit about, because I like to take this out of work and into personal a little.
It's way more effective. It's way more effective there. So I'm on a podcast, right? And I'm in Irvine, California. This guy's got like 900 LOs. I got to introduce you to him. It'd be great. You need to know Joe. I'm going to introduce you. You might know Joe, but I'll leave it at that. And you guys will like each other. Big podcast. I'm in a studio. Middle of the conversation, he goes, Michael, okay, let's just stop about the business. How do you motivate a kid? And before I went into like the answer, because any good salesperson would know, I don't know which kid we're talking about and motivate to what. I said, which kid to motivate to do what? He goes, my son, Joe Jr., how do I motivate him to get serious about basketball? I said, all right, here's exactly what you're going to do. Tomorrow morning, after he ate, because you got to feed the kid, because if you don't feed a kid, you get a hangry kid. And I get hangry myself, right? Feed your kid. And when you're done, I want you to look your kid in the eyes. And I want you to say, Joe, if you ever want to get better at basketball, I might have a couple of ideas. Not now. You come to me when you're ready. Where most people do premature sales and premature things, they use dopamine, which is excitement, or cortisol, which is fear, like the whole market's going to crash and everyone's going to die and the house will burn down if you don't sign now. Okay, stop it. You got to use serotonin, which is the neurotransmitter of what happens when people feel good about a decision. I left him with that. The next morning, Joe calls me. I'm at the rink with my daughter in Irvine. And he goes, Michael, I don't know whether to love you or kill you. I go, what's going on? He goes, I did it. I did exactly what you said. And he came up to me the next day, and now I got to get him a freaking coach. Now, why am I telling you that? Because we need to make it someone else's idea. When your kid performs something well, you could say, great job. You can do that. And you can be an average parent and say, great job, pat on the back, try to give them the thing that you wish that your mom and dad gave you when you were a kid. Or you can look them in the eyes and go, of course you did. That's the kind of kid you are. That's the kind of student you are. That's the kind of athlete you are. We need to build self-sufficient people. Like with my wife, I didn't understand for years why she wouldn't give me a pat on the back and say, good job. And I'm sitting there in my vent, Chad, in front of like 1,000 people. I stopped. I go, holy shit. It's not that she didn't want to. She wouldn't be with me if I was a loser. She knows I'm great. So she doesn't have to tell me good job. I could tell myself that if I feel like it. So where I'm going about this with our children, one of the greatest gifts we can give our kids is if they tell you like calculus is hard, you look them in the eyes and say, Johnny, It's actually not. It's harder than you'd like it to be. And if you did want to learn how to do things different, I could teach you. We need to teach our children to stop looking at the world as hard or problems or difficult and say everything is solvable. Everything is possible. And this is not positive thinking. This is a different prompt. Because now I've been teaching this so long, there was no chat GBT. You go in chat GBT and say, give me the 50 reasons why the market sucks. You'll get 50 reasons. Give me 50 ways that I could look at the market positively. You'll get that too. So you've got to ask yourself, what are you putting out? So in my household, one of the things we recognized is we don't just sit there. We're not like positive thinking people, but we're not negative thinking people. We communicate. And we teach our children the power of influence. And we let them know that you and I are influencing at all times every day. So I would say these are big wins for your kids. And I would really focus on language, like the hard and harder. Instead of I'm proud of you, you should be proud of yourself. I go to every conference I go to that I go back a second year, they'll come up to me and go, Michael, I've been doing that for 6 months. Holy moly, my kid's confident, the grades, everything are going up. My sales team, somebody closed a big $3 million home. It's 90,000 in commission about to go around the office. We don't say good job. And you say, of course you did. Let's celebrate when you get back. By changing the language, it changes the biochemistry, and the biochemistry changes everything. So that's a big twist. I've got something I would give everybody here today. If Kevin doesn't get mad at me if I share it with you, that can make your people a lot of money.
We'll hear it. What is it?
Well, this is what we do. Like, what do most people do? Like when they're looking to gain a client and they're sitting down with them the first time to sign the paperwork, because you guys got to do the paperwork now because the rules have changed and we got to do
blah, blah, yeah,
what's that stupid thing we got to do now? What's that called?
Yeah, the buyer brokerage agreement.
Yeah, whatever, all that stuff. I get it. I respect it. Bunch of bad apples messed it up. Now we got to get serious about paperwork, right? But anyways, you're sitting down with somebody. How do most people explain their services?
I'm going to say incorrectly and leave it at that.
I know, but let me hear what it would sound like, Chad. Let's pretend you're Susie, the agent out of, I don't know. Wherever, Vermont. She is from a little town in Vermont.
I mean, folks, it's going to be different, but it's going to be that depending on the person, of course, right? I've been doing this for a long time and I know everything about what's going on here and I'm cheaper than everybody else because I don't have value in myself.
Good. Okay, good. So here's what I do. I look them in the eye and say, how familiar are you with our ABC real estate agency? What are they going to say?
Probably we're not, or we've heard of them.
Very good. So I want to be really, really clear. If all you're looking for is a real estate agent, we recommend you go to Google or go look at the back of a bench at a restaurant because that's not what we do here. Now, the second you say that's not what we do we have their attention?
Absolutely.
Here's what we do. We are a small family-based business here in Vermont, because most of us are small family-based businesses, right?
Sure.
I would say most offices are a small family-type business, which is oxytocin, which gets them feel connected.
Okay.
And our number one objective is to be your part coach, part mind reader, part mom and dad, part real estate professional, and part financial planner. And the reason I'm saying that is some part we're going to have to kick you in the butt and make you do something. Other parts we're going to have to coach you through. We're also going to do a mind reader because right now you got an 8-year-old. You'll need like a playroom. But in 4 years, that's got to become a teen room. It's got to be a little different. We got to think in advance. And we've got to do things you're not thinking. And more importantly, as a financial person, we've got a vested interest in making certain this house is one that goes up in value, because when we work with you in about 5 years or 10 years, when you sell it, we need to make sure it's worth more than it is now. So if all you want is an agent to do a transaction, they're everywhere. We want to become a big part of the family and help you grow into this home and eventually find the home you're truly looking for. And the reason I'm saying that is, don't most of these agents, when they do a good job, don't they mind read, coach? Don't they be mom and dad, kick people in the ass, yell at them, and I'm part therapist too? Because half the time if you lose a deal, I'm your freaking therapist, right?
Absolutely.
So if we're going to be doing this stuff, shouldn't we call it out?
It's a great point.
So here's the deal. I've never met a great agent that wasn't a therapist, that wasn't a coach, that wasn't a parent, that wasn't a financial person. And the second you separate yourself from the other agents, they are then going to explain it to their friends like this. Hey, Chad, I just used John. He's not really just a typical real estate guy. He's kind of part coach, therapist, kind of like my friend. Doesn't that sound a lot better than I got John, the real estate agent that works for XYZ agency?
Absolutely. Folks, go back, right? Push the little back button a few times. Listen to what Michael just gave you as a script for those of you that are in real estate. And if you're not in real estate, whatever organization you're in, whatever industry you're in, it probably still works in that industry. You might just shift a few of the things. Maybe you're not this and you're that in your industry, that you're the tech support person, is whatever it is. That was great wording to give value and set yourself apart. And Michael, you said it in a way that's absolutely going to draw people in by using those words, the family, other things that you use in there that are going to make me want to say, how do I become part of that?
100%. And you mentioned the thing with the spouses and stuff earlier. I will tell you, if you don't get your relationships right, your business is impossible. I'm just going to tell you.
Amen. Say that line again.
You do not get your relationships working the way you want them to for both parties, not just for you. Your business is destined to just be destroyed in every which way. And I don't call that out. I'm not being negative by saying it. So part of that is really getting clear on your relationship, on what it is. There'll be seasons and different things in your life that you're going to deal with between builds and sells and economies and everything else. And we've got to know that you're with the right person to weather the storm of what you want. Yet the biggest place we need to work on our language and our communication is we've got to recognize you're not just a salesperson. You're not just a real estate agent. We're moms, we're dads, we're brothers, we're sisters, we're cousins. We got all kinds of arenas in life. And we've got to learn how to be on and effective in all of those. And I would say one of the biggest things that I work on with people, above average people, they're not just extraordinary in one area. They're extraordinary in the areas of their life. They're allowed to transcend just sales and move into being good at any one of those things. And part of that is really being clear on their mental and emotional blueprint for their life.
I'm nodding my head. That doesn't work on a podcast, right? I have to use the words as I'm sitting over here going, yes, absolutely, right?
I do most of my stuff auditorily too. I mean, I will tell you, those of you listening to this now, I want to teach you a little bit how the mind works. My background's in neuroscience. And one of the coolest things is, one of the biggest deficits is talking and listening. The unconscious mind is designed by words, talking, and listening. And the number one script that we all have is an auditory script. So people say, what's more powerful, pictures or sounds? And it's always sounds. And I'm going to explain why. If I see a picture of a car wreck, in order to make sense of the car wreck, I have to talk about it with words. So if you're watching a scary movie, the scary is the way you just told yourself what happened, not what you saw. Because the second you saw it, you told yourself something. So your ability, and I'm a big avid reader and a big avid listener and not as much of a watcher. And here's why. If you read a physical book with a book light at night before you go to bed, it conditions your mind while you're sleeping in those 8 hours. When you listen to a podcast, it starts rewriting the circuitry of your mind. And I will tell you that the man or woman who has the life they want, there's a script that they run off of. Like your first day of kindergarten, my first day of kindergarten, I don't know if they asked me this. Did they ask you as a chat? Did they ask you what kind of life do you want to have in first day of school?
No, I'm pretty sure I don't remember that question being asked. Okay. They asked what color crayon I think I'd enjoy eating.
And then what happens is you wind up being like in third grade and they give you a test and they don't teach you how to study. They don't teach you how to memorize, do they?
No, not at all.
And then you're judged your entire life on how well you take a test, but nobody taught you pressure of tests, how to memorize or how to study. And you're wondering why you're not good at it. You take a bunch of random classes online. Same thing like entrepreneurship. But the first day in kindergarten, they just said, what kind of life do you want to have? And I would have said like mailman, right? I would have said like baseball player. I would have said something random, right?
Yep.
And what's interesting about it is when you say these things, they should say, great, there's a script that goes along with it. If you want to be a badass, that when your child is stolen in another country, you'll sound like Liam Neeson and say,
just watched that last night. Thank you for bringing that up.
Unique set of skills. And when I find you, I'm going to kill you. You did just watch that?
Last night we watched it again.
You don't know me that well, but I read people. I'm one of these weirdos. I randomly just said that and you watched last night.
Yep.
You could call that strange or I call that's my life. But you wouldn't say, yo, bro, I got some stuff or I'm going to come get you, dog. No, you would say, I've got a unique set of skills. And when I find you, I'm going to kill you. Like that's the script of a guy that's going to kill you, right? And the script of a guy that dominates in life or the girl that dominates in life, it is a script and it's a way of talking. So most of us are attempting to be the greatest salesman in the world. And we're running a script like man who holds spear in corner, you know, or person that stands on the side of a garbage truck, not knocking the guy in the garbage truck, but it's a different script and it's a different way of life and it's a different form of decision making.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot. You got a bunch of
Roll the
books.
spot. Which spot?
Which spot? You'll see. You got a bunch of books behind you. Not allowing to choose average sucks. Can't pick it. The books that you have on your shelf are there for a reason. Some of them just because they got thrown there, some of them because there were ones to keep. If you were going to recommend a book for our audience to go out and read other than Michael Bernoff's Average Sucks, As a Man Thinketh. He immediately grabbed it, folks. It was within arm's length. It wasn't even a full arm. You didn't have to even bend.
There's a copy of that on my desk. There's a copy of it to remind me on my nightstand, and a copy in my car. My daughter keeps it in her skate bag. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What you think about yourself is who you are, who you show up, and how you do it. If you want to sell, I would do As a Man Thinketh. If you want a better life, As a Man Thinketh. Your Bible will do good for those of you. That's your thing. This is a shortcut. How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of my favorite books, my original.
Yep.
Underneath it is one of the best books, J. Paul Getty, How to Be Rich. And what's interesting, it's not, when I watched his biography on his life, it wasn't called How to Get Rich. It was How to Be Rich. And being rich is different than getting rich. And you need to be rich. And I would say in order, those would be how I would play the game.
There you go. Folks, look, I've been talking with Michael Bernoff, and I could just keep this conversation going for hours. We're not going to, out of respect for your time, audience, Michael's time, and mine. You should definitely be checking him out, Michael, before the end, because there's stuff. Don't hang up, folks, right? Before the end, tell them what's the best ways to get a hold of you, follow you, connect with you if they want to moving forward from this, other than ordering the book.
Yeah, I mean, you can get the book is definitely a place. I recommend you read it if you're going to get it. Here's one thing I would tell everyone. There's like a couple of paths, and you can borrow this from me, Chad. Number one is if you're like a looky-loo person, I have a thing called Instagram. I was just on the School of Hard Knocks the other day. They stopped by my building. You know that little group? Go, what do you do? So just go check me on Instagram, YouTube. I have a YouTube show we do every week. Check it out.
Michael Bernoff?
Not hard to find. There's a thing called Google. Type in Michael Bernoff, Bernoff. Very easy to find. Follow me on social. My team and I put up a ton of content. This is a call out. If you're serious, you're like, I want to level up my language and communication. I would love to know more of what you do. And I'm serious. I'm Gen X. I'm old school. I'm going to make it easy. Email me, michaelbernoff@gmail.com. And I'm going to make it even one step easier. Here's a phone number to my team, 480-800-8051. If you text the word influence to 480-800-8051, a nice lady named Shia, who's my executive assistant, we'll get back to you. You mentioned Chad, we'll figure out a conversation. You know where you're at. You either want to voyeur outside and watch me, you trust me enough to get a book, or you're like, dude, this guy's crazy. I want to be with crazy people. Then you reach out, call, or email. And I leave it.
Kevin, you're crazy people. We know that for sure.
Kevin is Fred keeps Kevin sane.
Yes. Which, and I'll give the plug while we're here. Guys, if you haven't listened to, guys and gals, if you haven't listened to the Cardboard Wars, right? Catch Kevin over there on the podcast Cardboard Wars with their latest obsession with collecting of trading cards, baseball, hockey, all the different sports they're working.
Dude, I have Garbage Pail Kids. I just looked up the other day the value of those. Oh.
Don't tell me, because my mother threw all of my stuff out. I have none of it anymore.
I couldn't believe I have the whole first series. I looked up on eBay yesterday, $8,500. All of my 1983, 84 tops, Don Russ, Fleer. I better go call those guys because I'm sitting on like my next door neighbor worked for Fleer cards when I was a kid, and I've got boxes of stuff.
My father's friend, who's like unofficial uncle, worked for Kenner. I had everything Star Wars, but I was stupid enough to play with it. That's what we did back in the 80s, folks. We played with the stuff. We didn't know to keep it in a box and look at it for years.
I got the Ewok Village. I've got the AT-AT. I've got the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing fighter, the one that goes in the Dagobah in the dirt, the dirty one. And I have all of them. And I have the Darth Vader helmet that you keep all the figures in.
I had that too. Absolutely.
I have it. I'm about to pack it up because I'm moving again. I'm about to pack it up. My daughter and I still have all the collectibles. Look at this.
My wife made me get rid of it on the last move. I finally sold
original 77.
Yep, I had that guy right there. He's holding the Darth Vader from 70. Mine had he's got the lightsaber. I can see it sticking out. Yeah.
This is the hologram of Anakin.
Oh, there you go.
That you got to send away all your pieces to get.
He's got them all up there, folks. All right, here's what we're going to do, Michael. I like to do this at the end of the episode. Before I shut it down and call it to a close, 1 minute, I'm going to put you on the clock. I don't care if you repeat something you've already talked about because it's that important, you want to say it again, or if there's something on your heart that did not come up in our conversation that you want to throw at our audience. 1 minute, go.
All right. So here's the biggest reason why I do what I do. I love capitalism. I love entrepreneurship. And I believe that at this very moment, there's a meeting going on somewhere in an Amazon factory or a boardroom somewhere where they're looking to eradicate entrepreneurship from the world and they're looking to organize it. And if we as entrepreneurs do not become more effective communicators and start playing the bigger games the bigger companies do in the world, they're not only going to take over our industries, they're going to take away our ability to do what we do. And I got kids and I want to make certain that entrepreneurship leads and it continues being there in the world. And this is why I'm making this last statement. You've got to accept the power of your own influence and realize the way you live multiplies other people to be just like you. If you're smoking, you're teaching other people to smoke. If you're overeating, you're teaching other people. I do want to put that guilt and pressure on you right now. You become a multimillionaire, you're showing other people how to make six figures and millions of dollars. You owe it to your family, to your kids, to accept the fact that when you drink, you're just encouraging other people to drink. When you work out, you're encouraging other people to work out. You've got to recognize that the way you live is influential. Even if it's not what you want to be doing, we're always influencing people, and accept that and do something with it. If you don't have a family, you've got nieces and nephews, you've got people in your life, you've got people in your neighborhood. And realize this, even if you're the greatest introvert in the world, there's somebody watching you and following you. Make certain you're taking them to the right place.
Boom. Drop a mic on that one. That was a finish I'm going to go back and listen to again. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. Audience, this is one to share. They're all ones to share. This is one to share because when somebody, boom, before I even push record, has already become a friend of the Win, Make, Give family the way Michael did today quickly, and we realize the influence we all have on each other, you have it, audience. Who are you going to share this episode with so they learn that they have it as well? Michael, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. And until our next episode, folks, as always, do good.